This is Smile Business Diaries, a DSD podcast. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Smile Business Diaries. Today's inspirational guest is Dr. Publio Silfa. Publio has recently opened a brand new startup practice in Commack, New York. He has many pearls of wisdom to share. Enjoy. All right, Dr. Silfa has brought his years of experience and warm personality to Silfa Dental, making him more than capable of being the dentist for you in Commack, New York. In addition to his 20 years of dental practice, Dr. Silfa's industry-leading skills and approaches have earned him a teaching position at NYU and prestigious position mentoring dentists across the country. Welcome, Dr. Silfa.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Maria. It's a pleasure to be here and share a little bit of my story to hopefully make an impact in future doctors, dentists, and team members.
Absolutely. I think your story is very interesting because you are a brand new office in Commack. I'm saying that right? Commack? I know you. Okay, Commack, New York, which is a very nice area. I had the privilege of seeing your office in person and meeting your team and getting you guys more integrated with digital small design. But please share with us, how did you get there? Where did you come from? What was it like? What were your struggles? All that information that can really help those that are looking to build. And especially in today's economy, with everything going on in the world, how did you get to where you are?
So they're going to say that it's an overnight success, but honestly, it's never an overnight success. It's years of hard work and dedication and late nights and sacrifices and yeses and nos that I went through. So I came to this country in 2004. And it was a big moment for me because at the age of 21, I decided to leave everything behind. And 20 years later, I'm opening my second practice, DSD practice, in which I'm putting into practice everything I've learned throughout those 20 years. So yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Absolutely. It always is, right? There's no way around it, right? You have to go through the fire, right, to get to where you are. So please share with us more on, what were those fires that you had to put out along the way and how did you overcome them?
The biggest challenge was going through the educational part to get a re-credentialed. And there was a lot of setbacks. Life happens, I started a family young. I was 24 years old and ambitious and wanting to become the dentist in the United States and get licensed. And, as you make plans, life happens. And it was just going through those journeys, going through those moments to decide how bad do I really want it? How bad do I want to become a dentist? And try to keep that promise that I had for myself and a commitment that I said, whatever it takes. If I have to go to school or I have to become a dental assistant like I was for 2 years, if I have to do research for 6 years, if I have to go into the steps that I need to go, that is the journey that I would take. And for that, I'm grateful that those journeys were there. And that's where I realized, okay, now we're on path to practicing. What am I doing next? And, I was always looking for the next step. What's next? What's next? What's the next challenge? Someone told me the other day, Dr. Silfa, you like change. And I'm like, let me think about it because I don't enjoy the change, but I know that change is needed. I came to this country with $53 in my pocket. I left everything I had in Dominican Republic to come to America to live the American dream. But change happened then. Change happened 3 years later when I got married. Change happened 9 years later when I decided to move from the city to Long Island. Change happened when I opened my first practice. Change happened when I opened my second location. So I'm embracing the change, and that's really the part that needs to happen.
Absolutely. So I think a better way of saying that might be, you don't like change, but you adapt to change really well because, like you mentioned, change is going to happen no matter if we're ready or not, right? So better to be ready than not. And I think you're a great example of that. You know, can you share with me more about your struggle of getting into the country and knowing your pathway? I mean, I think it's easy to say, you know, you handled it one step at a time, but how did you set the foundation for this? Were you coming into the States knowing, okay, at the end of the day, this is where I'm going to be? And have you achieved exactly that?
Yeah. So I think I always had the 5-year plan. You know, what would I be doing in 5 years? And wrote it down, you know, and that was my way of measuring and calculating what am I achieving. You know, I've had 10 lists on the 5-year plan. 5 of them became accomplished. Then I'll go for the next. What's happening? What did I do? What did not do? And I would improve on that. And those were the but that was the way I actually tracked and monitored how I was progressing and how I was growing too.
Awesome. So what would you say are some of the misconceptions about going into this journey that you wish you would have known then that you know now?
Oh, it's going to be easy. You're going to be, you know, successful dentist and lots of money and traveling the world. And the first 10 years, I honestly worked 6 days a week, you know, and it was 10, 12-hour days. I put a lot of sacrifice in that, and dentistry was fun, but I had to sacrifice a lot, you know, and dentistry has always been fun. So yeah, that's usually the misconception that they have that, oh, the career. No, you have to put in the work. You have to put in.
Absolutely. There's no shortcuts, right? Or do you believe that there are shortcuts?
Yeah, you could. You might not get a shortcut, but you might get a boost. You know, if you join a practice of a big well-to-do practice, someone who has leadership in it already, has years of experience, 100 years plus of multi-specialty educational, depending on the field you want to join in. So if you find the right practice, you actually have a boost. The question is, at what time of your career are you going to get that boost? Are you going to join that practice at your 50 years of age? Are you 40? Recently grad? You know, if you jump in recently grad, you're on the highway to good planned future. So yeah, that could be that shortcut, if I could say.
Okay. So if there were somebody right now that were looking to build their own practice, just as you have recently, what are like the top 3 pieces of advice you would give to them?
So I would say, look at that practice that you see that you want to become, right? Look at it online, look on the website. Don't limit yourself to your local neighborhood dentist. Look outside of the United States. Look in Europe and Australia. What are other dentists doing? You know, how are they revolutionizing dentistry? How are they thinking outside the box? Look at that and take the goods and take the wants and make it your own version. You know, that would be one way. The other way is getting involved with teaching. You know, I didn't realize the passion I had for teaching until I started mentoring. I had my mentor me and tell me, do this, do that, do this. And this is actually after practicing dentistry for 10 years. And I'm like, oh, wow. Even at the 10 years out of practice, I'm still being mentored. What really helped me was, how am I mentoring other people to become better? And that allowed me to see dentistry in a different way. And the other part is be active with your community. Understand what is your target audience, what type of dentistry you want to do. You know, if you're going to do an aesthetic practice, don't do it in the middle of nowhere where aesthetics is not a concern. If you're going to do an implant focus only practice, target that audience that knows that that's the need. So it's being hyper focused on what type of practice you want to deliver, and then be intentional on that.
Absolutely. Thank you. So for those that are looking forward to becoming as established as you are right now, there's going to be growing pains, right? There's going to be, again, fires that you have to walk through to get there. So for you personally, what has allowed you to overcome those feelings of discouragement and, you know, struggles along the way? How do you push through that personally?
It's even as a business owner and young startup practice, it's always learning. It's always a learning experience. For example, what allows me to become better is the community I surround myself with. Just to give you an example, our own DSD community, group of doctors. I get on the phone with them. Hey, I'm struggling with this. This is happening to me. He's like, Publio, I went through that last year. This is how I overcame it. And then that community you have of colleagues, of doctors, of teams, or mentors, looking for that support. You need a spiritual mentor. You need a fitness mentor. You need a mentor that gets your mind and reset when you need to. So you need to have different type of mentors, not just focus in dentistry, because one of the biggest mentors that impacted my business was my business mentor. It had nothing to do with dentistry. And they allowed me to organize what I do in dentistry, but bring it to the business side of it, because as dentists, we're not just dentists, we're also business owners trying to run our day-to-day.
Right.
And that's where you need that support.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of dentists, especially straight out of school, their focus is, and you mentioned the focus thing, right? It's so strictly focused on, okay, let me do better in dentistry, all dentistry, right? Clinical dentistry. Whereas we don't realize how important all these other areas of life is in order to boost your dentistry and get the rests from that, right? So it's interesting for you to mention that, because I think a lot of dentists out there do need to focus on other areas outside of dentistry. And so how did you come about realizing that? I mean, is it something you knew from the beginning and you did it from that point forward and it's just worked for you? Or is this something you learned along the way?
So I went to 3-year residency and all I knew was academia. And I never run the practice. And I knew how to do good dentistry because that's what I was trained for. And when I joined private practice as an associate, I was trying to do the best dentistry I could, but the business model was my missing link. It took me a while to learn how to run the business, how to run the people, how to run your team members as far as a leader and communicate with them, which is, even today, it's one of my hardest tasks, because each team member has a different personality. And how do you communicate to them and motivate them to let them know what's your passion, what's your biggest why are they working in the office? So those are things that little by little you start gathering and learning and implementing to become successful. Because when you're successful, you're not just successful alone. Your entire team has to be successful.
Absolutely. So what advice would you give on finding that team around you?
I use the model of thinking outside the box a lot, and I don't like looking for team members that have had too much in the career itself. For example, I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm the best at it. Now that person is not going to be willing to change, and especially the style and concept that we practice dentistry with DSD. It's totally different than what insurance-driven practices or focus on a fee dictated by the insurance companies. Like we're trying to deliver an experience, a hospitality experience, dental experience, and you need to learn how to overcome those objections or challenges that come through the way.
Okay.
So those are moments.
Hello, I'm just taking a quick break from this podcast interview to tell you how you can get started with DSD. If there was anything that our guest has mentioned that strikes a chord with you, or you are curious about becoming a DSD clinic, I encourage you to book a call with me. This is a 30-minute, no-obligation information sharing session in which I can answer your questions about DSD and discuss your options based on your unique circumstances. The link to schedule a call with me can be found in the notes on this episode. Now, back to the interview. For sure. You have a beautiful practice. It's to detail, right? And I know that you have collected a lot of information over the years to produce this dream of yours. What exactly were the most important factors for you in building this practice, and how would you define it right now for everybody who doesn't know about your practice?
So my practice, I looked at it as a place where I'm spending more time outside of my home and creating a space in the practice where I want to feel comfortable. I want my patients to feel welcomed, and I want my team members to find a safe haven in the space as well. So as much as I love dentistry and I want to practice dentistry until like I'm 90, I also see that the impact that I have in teaching and mentoring other dentists will be the big factor in my career. So I designed the practice with that in mind, having that opportunity to create a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or a 3-day, 4-day event where we could continue to mentor, teach, and coach everything I've learned in the past. For example, from photography, from digital workflows, from patient communications, creating that one-on-one event. I created that space within the practice. So it's not just a dental clinic facility. It's also a place where mentoring and coaching is formed.
Definitely. And so did you know this was your plan from the beginning, though? I mean, did you know at the end of it all, I'm going to be teaching, I'm going to be mentoring? How did you find this in yourself?
I knew that there was something in me that wanted to continue mentoring and teaching. So I said, what other best way to do it than in my own space? And when I realized that's what I wanted to do, I started to design the practice around that same model. I also have my daughter who told me that she's 16, is still too soon, but she told me she wants to become a dentist. So that ignited a fire into wanting to create a place for her as well, to have a foundation.
Did she get to choose the color scheme and the outline of it?
She did make some suggestions. She did do pottery, so she'd made some pottery for the office, and we have some pottery in different parts of the office, and it reminded me of her too.
Oh, amazing! So you have little personal touches in there that keep you going throughout the day, I assume.
Yeah, some Easter eggs, some little Easter eggs.
Yeah, there. Yes. How important is that for you to have those reminders?
Those are my why. That's the reason why I do what I do. And if I could easily be walking through the office and see an art or see a craft or see a gentle touch of a reminder, it definitely triggers that good feel and purpose for what I'm doing. So that's why you need to have those small reminders. You need to celebrate and have a plan as well.
For sure. So I know the type of dentistry you're doing is a bit more elevated than the general mass in dentistry right now. How did you get to that point? I mean, I know it's the dream, right? Everybody wants to be doing the kind of dentistry you're doing right now and having the type of patients you have. What would you say is the secret sauce to developing that type of practice? And in your situation, I mean, from scratch, really.
You know what it is? You must invest in CE. You must invest in learning, but you also have to implement. I was reading or listening to a podcast the other day, and there are a lot of CE junkies in the dental career, and they consume, but never implement. And if you could implement one thing from every course or every chapter you read in a book and do that and implement it, you will have a better result over time, because those little pearls will add up and become a big jewelry box. And that is what allowed me to practice dentistry to where I am now. I had to learn how to get fast. I needed to implement my skills and prepping fast and being confident and reading the room and reading the patient and knowing which patient and which procedure to do and how far to push, because that comes in private practice. That's why it's called private practice. You're seeing daily with things you're learning with your CEs. So that allowed me to be better. And also after a while, I started to realize what I was good at and what I really sucked at. So I wanted to focus more on things that I was better at, and that's where I am thriving every day. So takes ease, big practice. I would say for that young dentist, I would say 4 days of practice of dentistry is good. 1 day for giving back, go to the residency, go to a program at school, volunteer your time to help or make an impact in another person's life. And then have your time to yourself. You need at least 2 days a month for your own quiet time. Find that time in your schedule that will allow you to recharge and to look and plan for the next coming weeks or days or months or years. Because if you're just in that hamster wheel 6 days a week, you're going to be burnt out. And nowadays it's happening faster than it did before. There's a lot of things happening. Students are graduating with $1 million debt like that and not even going to residency. So I would say 4 days is a secret sauce to focus on practicing. 1 day teaching, and then 1 day for yourself and also your family, as you start off. And the reason why you work so hard is because you want to enjoy that quality time with your family. And when that young dentist, 1 year, 5 years out, I would say don't work in just one location. Go to one office where you work 2 days a week, where it's a fast-paced insurance practice, whatnot, that gives you that speed and opportunity. And then go to that 1 day or 2 days a week in another location where you feel that you can learn and fine-tune what that practice has been successfully doing for years. If it's a big aesthetic practice, go learn from what they're doing that you are going to, you might have to take a pay cut, but that pay cut might be your residency without even you knowing you're going through a residency.
Right.
So find that right mentorship, have the opportunity to interview your interviewee, so if you're going to go to work somewhere, you also have the opportunity to interview them to see if it's a good fit based on what you want, and then it's a matter of committing to that.
Definitely. So how I hear it being said is stop being afraid of the risks, right? Of the learning lessons that we endure over that period of time. Because I know your story a little bit more than what we can fit in this podcast time, but it's extremely inspirational because it's the truth. It's the reality of the situation. Like you said, it's not overnight. You're going to suffer through some pains, right? But the thing I think that we all need to realize in that journey is these are all learning lessons. Don't be afraid to fall. We all will fall at some point, and it's just a matter of what do we get out of it, right? And you are the walking, living, breathing example of this. You've been through a lot, and it's a very emotional time during the training at your office, learning your story a bit more. And I wish we could get into it more, but I think, just in general, what you're saying is take those risks. Whether you fall or grow, it doesn't matter, because something good will come out of it, right? And if it's something you truly want, which is, again, what you've demonstrated, you've been one of the most determined people I've ever met, honestly. And to see, your success come from that alone is remarkable. So thank you for sharing.
And again, I'm not here because I did it all by myself. I surrounded myself with people who believed in me, who challenged me, who looked up to me. So I also had all those pressures on top of me to become and decide to do what I wanted to do. And this success is not done by myself. It's a team effort, both in the practice and at home. And
I think that's
focusing and surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, you will attract what you're looking for, what you're seeking for.
Absolutely. And that's another good tip there is, the person that believes, and I obviously talk to a lot of dentists that are interested in doing dentistry with TSD, and there's some common factors that you see in those that do grow in the field and those that just really stay the same. And I think it comes down to knowing that you can't do it alone. If you come in with that ego and you're like, I don't need this, I don't need that, I can do this all by myself, you're destined to fail because, even if you do succeed financially, at the end of the day, what is it for, right? Why are you pushing off everyone around you that wants to help you succeed and help you grow just to be able to say, oh, I did it by myself? And in a way that's not even appealing, right?
That's not. And it's, for example, my team members know how to take pictures, photography, scans, x-rays, everything. I struggle sometimes turning on the CBCT machine. But yesterday I had to step up to the plate and, own it and break down the room and clean up and set up and organize. As a leader, you have to lead by example, and you have to be willing to, during that journey, say, hey, I don't mind getting down and dirty and doing what I need to do. I have one goal, and that goal is the success of the practice, the success of the patient's treatment and the end result. So when you lead by that, they'll see it.
Yes. And I think that team, realizes that too. When you show that, we're all equal, we're all human beings at the end of the day, and you give that type of leadership where you demonstrate, hey, it's not one person's job and not the others. We're all here as a team collectively. I see in different offices the different dynamics, and yours was purely showing that, that it's like there's no threats between each other. There's no tension between your teams and yourself. There's no division or hierarchy, right? We're all together in this. And your team, I could see, demonstrated that, not just felt it, but demonstrated it to anyone that walks through the doors. And that's so important, so phenomenal, what you guys have going on. And I do see, other offices that struggle in that. And I don't know, is this something you can teach? Is this something that you can, tell somebody, hey, do it this way and it all works out? How do you go about it?
So look at it this way. Your team is basically an extension of your family. You are a family at the end of all days, and you're creating this camaraderie. And even at the best families, there's always going to be fights and discussions, but there always should be respect. Whenever I make a mistake, I get called out by my team members, but also we have it in a way that it's respectful. So when everyone is lined up with the same vision and it could be expressed and delivered, you'll be successful, but can it be trained? You can hire good personality and then you could train dentistry. I believe that. You could hire, everyone has a skill. I don't believe in fire that person because that person doesn't fit the mold for your practice. No, it might be that person might not fit the role that they're positioned in as of now, but it might be that in the future with proper mentoring, they might be ready to be that leader in the practice. So you have to hire quality and then train and hone in on what that vision or goal is for that person in the practice and position. The other factor is that dentists are control freaks. I struggled with that at first. It wasn't until my first ownership of practice that I realized I can't do it by myself. I need to let go, and I need to let them own it, have ownership of their mistakes, of their successes, so they could see the value of the hard work they put in. For me, I wanted to control everything. I wanted to know everything beeping in the office, beeping out. There's a certain degree of obsession that you have to have.
Yes.
You have to have that because if not, it wouldn't be your practice. But you have to know how to let people make mistakes and own them when they do it. Hopefully it's not a hard mistake, a strong one, a bad one, but you could learn from it and not do it again.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm a mom, so I'm always gonna give the analogies of motherhood and things of that nature. So We talk about our offices and new offices. They're your baby, right? That's your baby. And I think it's the same concept of, that you want to protect that baby with everything in your power. And you're very particular on who gets to hold your baby and touch your baby. And but at some point, life is going to happen, right? And that baby's going to grow, and you can't hold that baby by yourself forever, right? Your arms are going to get tired, literally. So you have to give a little sense of trust, right? I think that's maybe the core ingredient of what you experience. And tell me if I'm wrong, but you have to trust. I had this question in your office of, is trust earned or given? And it's very interesting when we get into it, because all the facts will show that, trust is given initially. We, as toddlers, as babies, we trust naturally. It's our experiences along the way that hurt us, that cause us to not trust in certain areas and certain situations, right? So I believe that may be part of the reason why a lot of doctors are so hesitant to give up that power in the office on certain protocols in place and things of that nature. How do you get over, because the truth is, there could be a failure come out of it. There could be some disaster that falls in place because you gave that trust to somebody. How do you manage that?
It's like I wouldn't buy my 16-year-old daughter a Ferrari for her first car, even if I had one. Because you got to know when and how much to trust. It's earned over time, and demonstrate to me that you're capable of doing something, and you'll earn it, even with much more. I'll give you the trust, but once it's lost, trust is easy. It's hard to get back. So you have to let your team members make mistakes. My assistants take better photography than me at times when we're in the office. I'm like, I'm rusty. I got to get back in there, because they have mastered the skill that I started to say, hey, I'm okay with you taking the pictures because I want you to learn. I want you to grow, and they've used those skills outside of dentistry. So I immediately realized, oh, I'm making an impact in their lives somehow. Same thing with the coaching and mentoring when we communicate with patients for treatment. That's knowledge. That's knowledge that we're training them, mentoring them, allowing them to succeed and to fail. And wherever they go in life, that's knowledge that they would carry on with them for life. They can't take it. No one could take that away. So as dentists, we got to learn how and what to let team members do. What are they going to do? How are they going to do it? Supervised, perfect. But they have to learn how to do it.
Absolutely. And I think one of the toughest life lessons is, knowing that maybe you could be wrong in some things, right? And as a good leader, this is something I see a lot of great leaders encompass is they see that, what, let me stay quiet, let me step back and see what happens, because maybe I'm wrong. And that's one of the hardest things I see dentists be able to exhibit in general. But, the consistency I see among DSD offices is that you guys have this ability to step back and say, you know what, I'm going to jump, I'm going to see what happens, and, we'll handle it from there. And of course, it's smart risks. I'm not saying, jump off completely blindly, but, I think it's knowing, okay, worst case scenario, what could happen from this, right? And best case scenario, what could happen from this? The best case is usually what happens, right, is the team member loves this new skill that they're developing on. They take ownership of it. They feel proud. And this is one of the ingredients as well that is so important that I don't know if many offices, because, we're not here to become business owners. You're here to be a dentist first, right? And so that education with the business comes later on. But the one thing that's so important is, and that I wish more offices would do, and tell me if you agree, is, allowing the team to take control of certain areas and have the possibility that they become so great and that you are the cause of their greatness. Like, how does that feel? What do you think about that?
That is the reason why I love teaching. I go every Friday and I teach a group of doctors, 30 doctors that rotate weekly. And it's just feedback that I get from them when they say, wow, I can now do this in my practice. My team members are growing from this. I have an associate who's growing and learning from just the little things you taught me. And I didn't realize the impact that was doing. And I realized that my mentor was having the same results, feeling from what I was being successful. So he's proud from my success. I'm proud from what I could continue. So look at it the other way around. Do that in your practice. Invest in your team members. Allow them to grow. Allow them to make mistakes. Obviously, there's a limit to how many mistakes you make and the consequences of it. But allow them to be better, and that is the real rewarding part of it all.
Exactly. And I'm going to share a little bit of a controversial thing that I've heard in the past, because I want to hear your thoughts on it. And I was told at one time, I'm over here with DSD trying to explain the importance of training your team and getting them aligned with what your education as the dentist is, because so many times you see the dentist going to CEs without their team or without engaging them in the same information. And over time, the dentist is growing, whereas the team is staying complacent, their status quo in their abilities, their skill sets. Now, I know from a psychology standpoint, what effect this plays, but how would you explain the importance of team growth in the office as well? Why is it so important to give your team the growth and not allow them to stay still? Because the controversial thing that I heard was, I don't want my team to get better, because once they get better, they're going to leave me, and I'm paying for their skill set that somebody else is, that they're going to give to somebody else, and I've had a loss now.
It's a very valid point. Many business owners, and I don't think it's just limited to dental. Guess what? They will leave, and they will realize the benefits that they had when they practiced. I had past employees that messaged me, thank you for being so hard on me and pushing me and challenging me, but also thank you for investing in me, and you know what? It's a maturity thing. They grow, they learn, and they grow mature. As the dentist owner also has to learn, grow, and mature, because if a team member that was happy today in their honeymoon phase leaves in a year or two, they did not leave because they wanted to. Something caused that to happen, why they had to leave, and the benefits you had for those 2 years of that time, that person was in your life for that period. Someone could come into your life for a day, 2 days, a year, 5 years, a decade, but everyone has a purpose to be with you as a team. And those are self-reflections. I've seen dentists lose assistants, 10, 11 assistants back to back to back to back to back. There's a common factor there. It's not the assistant, it's the dentist, so that dentist needs to self-reflect. If you're going to give something, give it. If you're going to train your team because that it's how you will want your team to run, invest in them. They would make a decision moving forward if they want to stay or go, and then again, that's where you pivot. That's where you adjust. That's where you kind of like, all right, that didn't work. Next, but it's a scarcity mindset of, no, I'm not going to invest in you because you could go to my competitor. They will, and that's the reality. You can't handcuff them to stay with you forever, If you're investing in your team, invest well, and let them know why you do it and what's your goal with it.
Absolutely. And and that is the difference between a leader and somebody that just isn't leading, right? And I like the statement that you said of give it as a real gift, because I think just a lot of people today, it's, what can I get out of this? What do I get? And me. And that's not really the direction you want to go if you're trying to build, a foundation of success and something that can run on its own without you someday, maybe. And it's, you got to put all the gears in place. And so if that piece is missing, it's all going to fall apart, right? And I think that's just something that a lot of people, not even just dentists, a lot of people need to realize is like, if you plan on giving something, give it. There may not be anything in return. And going into it knowing that, it'll allow you to prevent that discouragement, that disappointment, right? Because it's that expectation that we have of, I'm giving this to you, and now I expect you to stay with me forever.
Yeah.
That's not real. That's not reality, right? Like you said, you can't chain people to your office.
Yeah. And you look at it in the hospitality industry, people who have become amazing entrepreneurs, opening their own restaurants in the future is because they worked in a place where they were invested. They were trusted to take in those experiences. Right. They put in the hard work, but they became who they became, and they went to open a top, 3-star Michelin restaurant, Yeah, but you didn't see what they were doing 10 to 15 years ago when they were the bellboy of the restaurant and, and hostess and working around it. So it's definitely, everyone has to go through a journey. I went through my journey. That's where I am now. Doctors have to understand that.
Yes, for sure. So as we get towards the end of this, I want to know from you, if you could give one message to dentists around the world today, that could help them, what would that be?
Well, I don't know if I could give you one message, I think you have to identify why you are opening the doors of your practice. What is it that's motivating you to open that door? Because if it's all about the money, there's other ways of making money. And when you're chasing that and not having purpose, you're really spinning your wheels and trying to grow, so have purpose, have passion, and show it. I'm a little bit biased because I live with passion. I communicate with passion. So I will show everything I have and leave it on the table. If I have to do an all-nighter, the same way I studied for my boards and my tests and my exams to deliver a case or work in my practice, I will do that. Because I'm driven by that, not incentivized by the financial part of it. When you do so well doing that in a practice or what you do, success and money and all the good things just come as part of it. And that's the reality. That's been my experience, and that's what I'm speaking to that young associate or that doctor 5 year out that wants to become a DST clinic or wants to do something in the realms of digital dentistry or full arch practice. Have passion, don't get in it for the money because it's not going to last.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your secrets, and, just really the reality of dentistry today. I don't think it's talked enough about, and it's something very important to, spread the word. We're in a society where we have this ability now, right, to interact digitally and spread a message across the world within minutes, if not seconds. So I believe this is going to help somebody out there. So I definitely appreciate your time sharing. And, if anybody does have questions specifically and wants to reach out to you, what would be the best way to contact you after this?
I'm mostly active on social media, on Instagram, and it's DOCTOR, last name Silfa. So it's Dr. Silfa handle on Instagram. But Maria, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to use this platform to express my experiences, but also to try to make an impact in someone else's life. And again, that is my purpose in life, is to make an impact in one person's life so that person has seeds to continue to plant for other people to make impacts in their lives. So thank you once again for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I plan to get more out of you in the future. We'll do this again for sure. All right. You have a great day.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, be sure to like and share it with your professional network. In the next episode, I talked to Dr. Diana Torres. If you subscribe to Smile Business Diaries, you won't miss it.